His sister joked I wasn't wife material, so I told her what her brother did last month that made me reconsider being one. Everyone went silent. It happened at the engagement party his parents threw, the one with the ice sculpture and champagne they kept mentioning. His sister Victoria had been circling me all night, making comments about my job as a dental hygienist, about how I still rented, about my community college degree. Then she said it, loud enough for the whole table to hear. Well, Donovan's always had unique taste. Wife material usually includes, ambition. The aunts laughed. His mother looked away. Donovan squeezed my hand but said nothing, just like he'd said nothing the other times Victoria took shots at me. I'd been holding it in for months. The secret. But something about Victoria's smug face and Donovan's silence made me snap. You're right, I said calmly. I'm probably not wife material. Especially not for a man who spent $8,000 last month on his mistress's abortion. The champagne glass in his mother's hand hit the floor. Victoria's mouth opened. No sound came out. Donovan went white. Babe, that's not... Her name is Felicity, I continued. She works at your gym. You've been seeing her for 6 months. When she got pregnant, you paid for everything in cash so I wouldn't see it on the credit card statement. His father stood up. This is inappropriate. I pulled out my phone. I have the receipts. Hotel charges from business trips, jewelry you bought her, text messages you thought you deleted but backed up to the cloud. Donovan's face crumbled. How did you... Your password is your mom's birthday. It's always been your mom's birthday. Victoria looked at her brother with genuine shock. The golden child who could do no wrong. Felicity wanted to keep the baby, I said. She texted you 92 times. You blocked her after the procedure. She showed up at your office twice. Your secretary turned her away. His mother was crying now. Not for me, not for Felicity, for the family image crumbling in real time. Felicity found my Instagram, I continued, messaged me 3 weeks ago, sent me everything. Donovan reached for me. Please, we can talk privately. Talk to me, building a life. I stood up. I've been sleeping in the guest for 3 weeks trying to decide if this was fixable. Victoria stared at us. The sister who'd spent all night judging my worth while her brother lived a double life. The worst part? I said quietly. Felicity's not even the first. There was Holly 2 years ago. Before that, Brianna. Complete silence now. Even the servers stopped moving. His uncle spoke. How long have you known? Long enough to hire a lawyer and cancel the venue. Donovan's eyes went wide. You canceled the wedding? This morning. Got half the deposit back. I grabbed my purse. Oh, and Victoria? I'm keeping the ring. It's worth $15,000, which should cover the therapy I'll need after dating your brother for 3 years. I walked toward the door, stopped, turned around. There's one more thing Felicity told me, I said. Something I haven't figured out yet. The entire family stared at me, frozen. She said Donovan has a safety deposit box at First National Bank, one he opened 5 years ago that I never knew about. She saw the key in his wallet once. He got weirdly defensive when she asked about it. I looked directly at Donovan. What's in the box? His face went from white to gray, and suddenly I realized. Whatever was in that box was bigger than the cheating, bigger than the lies. His hands were shaking. His mother was staring at him with an expression I'd never seen before. What's in the box, Donovan? His father cleared his throat. Perhaps we should all calm down and discuss this rationally. Rationally? I laughed. Your son has been living a double life for years and you want rational? Victoria finally found her voice. Wait, a safety deposit box? Donovan, what is she talking about? He wouldn't look at any of us, just stared at his plate like it held the answers to everything. His mother stood up slowly. Her face had changed. Gone was the crying, the concern about appearances. Now she looked genuinely frightened. Richard, she said quietly to her husband, the box. His father's reaction told me everything. He knew. Whatever was in that box, his father knew about it. You know what's in there, I said, pointing at his father. You've known this whole time. The aunts were whispering now. The cousins had their phones out, probably texting everyone who wasn't there. This party was supposed to be about celebrating our future. Instead, it was becoming the family's biggest scandal. Donovan stood up suddenly. His chair scraped against the floor. We need to leave. Now. I'm not going anywhere with you, I said. He grabbed my arm. Not hard, but firm enough that I felt trapped. Please, just come outside with me. I'll explain everything. I yanked my arm away. Explain it here, in front of everyone. They deserve to know what kind of person you really are. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. His voice was low, almost threatening. Victoria stood up. Donovan, what the hell is going on? What's in the safety deposit box? Nothing, he said quickly. She's just trying to embarrass me because she's heard about Felicity. But his mother's face said otherwise. And so did his father's. I pulled up my phone again. Felicity sent me screenshots of your text messages. In one of them, you told her that if she ever told anyone about the box, you'd make sure she regretted it. Those were your exact words. The room went completely silent. That sounds like a threat, his uncle said carefully. Donovan's jaw clenched. She's taking it out of context. What context makes threatening someone okay? I asked. His mother sank back into her chair. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. Richard, she whispered to her husband. We need to tell them. Tell us what? Victoria demanded. Her voice was shrill now, panicked. His father shook his head. Not here. Not like this. But I was done with their secrets. Done with their controlled narratives and careful image management. I have Felicity's number, I said. Should I call her right now? Have her tell everyone what else she knows? Donovan moved toward me. Don't. Or what? You'll threaten me too? He stopped. Something in his eyes shifted. For the first time since I'd known him, I saw real fear. Victoria grabbed her brother's arm. Donovan, you're scaring me. What did you do? He pulled away from her. I didn't do anything. She's blowing everything out of proportion. $8,000 for an abortion, I said. 3 separate affairs over 3 years. A secret safety deposit box that makes your parents turn white when mentioned. That's not blowing anything out of proportion. That's just the truth. His grandmother, who'd been silent this entire time, spoke up. She was 86 years old and sharper than anyone gave her credit for. The box at First National, she said quietly. That's where you've been keeping it. Keeping what? Victoria practically screamed. The grandmother looked at her grandson with something like pity. Then she looked at me. You should leave, dear. Whatever you think you know, it's worse than you imagine. A chill ran down my spine. I'm not leaving until someone tells me what's in that box. Donovan's father stood up. Everyone needs to go home. This party is over. But nobody moved. Everyone wanted answers now. I turned to Donovan. You have 2 choices. Either you tell everyone what's in the box, or I call Felicity and have her tell them everything she knows. His hands were shaking badly now. You don't want to do this. Watch me. I pulled up Felicity's contact. Fine, he said. His voice cracked. Fine. You want to know what's in the box? It's money. Money? Victoria said. Why would you need to hide money? Because it's not his money, his mother said quietly. Is it, Donovan? The silence that followed was deafening. Whose money is it? I asked. He didn't answer, just stared at the floor. His father spoke instead. 5 years ago, Donovan was the accountant for a small nonprofit, a children's charity that funded medical treatments for families who couldn't afford them. Was, his mother emphasized. Past tense. I felt sick. No. He embezzled $340,000 over 18 months, his father continued. Money that was supposed to go to sick children. Victoria gasped. The aunts started talking all at once. The cousins' phones were definitely recording now. That's not possible, Victoria said. Donovan would never, but I was remembering things now. The way he'd quit that job suddenly. How he'd said the nonprofit shut down due to funding issues. How he'd started his current job at his father's company almost immediately after. Did you pay them back? I asked quietly. His father's expression was answer enough. So you've been hiding stolen money in a safety deposit box for 5 years, I said. Money stolen from sick children. It was supposed to be temporary, Donovan said. His voice was barely a whisper. I was going to pay it back. With what money? I asked. You've been spending thousands on mistresses and hotels. That's different. How is that different? Because I was stressed, he shouted. Do you know what it's like living with this kind of secret? I needed an escape. So you used money meant for dying children to fund your affairs? He had no answer for that. Victoria was crying now. Real tears. Not the performative kind she usually did. I don't understand. How could you? The nonprofit shut down, his mother said quietly. Without that funding, they couldn't operate anymore. 6 families lost access to treatments they desperately needed. 6 families, I repeated. 6 families with sick kids who needed help. Donovan sank into his chair. He looked broken, but I felt no sympathy. Not anymore. Did Felicity know about this? I asked. He nodded. She found bank statements in my car. I told her everything, begged her not to tell anyone. And when she got pregnant? When she wanted to keep the baby? He looked up at me. His eyes were red. I panicked. I thought if she kept it, if we had a kid together, she'd have leverage over me forever. She could expose me whenever she wanted. So you paid her off and threw her away. It wasn't like that. That's exactly what it was like. His grandmother stood up. She moved slowly, her cane tapping against the floor. When she reached Donovan, she didn't hesitate. She slapped him across the face. The sound echoed through the room. You are a disgrace, she said. To this family, to your name, to everything we've built. Tears were streaming down his face now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back that nonprofit, she said. Sorry doesn't help those children who lost access to treatment. She turned to me. You were smart to call off the wedding. Run as far from this family as you can. But I wasn't done yet. I need to know something, I said to his parents. Did you know about the stolen money? His mother looked away. His father met my eyes. We found out about it 3 years ago, he said. We've been trying to figure out how to fix it without destroying Donovan's future. 3 years, I said. You've known for 3 years and done nothing? We were going to pay it back, his mother said. Eventually. Eventually? I looked at all of them. Every single adult in this room knew, and none of you did anything. It's complicated, his uncle said. No, I said. It's really not. Your nephew stole money from dying children, and you all decided his reputation was more important than justice. Victoria was staring at her parents like she'd never seen them before. You knew? All this time? We were protecting the family, her mother said. By protecting a thief? Victoria's voice was breaking. What about those families? Those kids? Nobody answered her. I pulled out my phone again. This time I wasn't calling Felicity. Who are you calling? Donovan asked, panic in his voice. The police. His father moved toward me. Now let's not be hasty. I stepped back. Stay away from me. We can work this out, he said. We can pay the money back. Make this right. You've had 5 years to make it right. You chose not to. If you call the police, you'll destroy this entire family, his mother said. You destroyed yourselves. I dialed 911. Donovan lunged for my phone, but his uncle grabbed him. The cousins were backing toward the door. The aunts were arguing about what to do. Victoria sat frozen in her chair. 911, what's your emergency? The operator said. I'd like to report a theft, I said. $340,000 stolen from a children's charity 5 years ago. As I gave them the details, Donovan's face crumbled completely. His mother was sobbing. His father was already on the phone with their lawyer. The grandmother nodded at me with something like approval. Victoria walked over to me. When I hung up with the dispatcher, she spoke. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For being the only person in this room with a spine. The police arrived 20 minutes later. During that time, nobody left. Nobody spoke. We all just sat there in the ruins of what was supposed to be a celebration. When the officers walked in, Donovan's father tried to take control. There's been a misunderstanding, he said smoothly. A family dispute that got out of hand. But I had everything on my phone. Screenshots of Donovan's text to Felicity where he confessed to the embezzlement. Bank statements I'd found weeks ago when I started investigating. Even a voice recording from when he'd drunkenly told me about his biggest regret one night, though he'd been too vague for me to understand what he meant at the time. The officers took statements from everyone. Donovan was arrested that night. His father and mother were brought in for questioning about their knowledge of the crime and failure to report it. Victoria and I stood outside the police station at 2 a.m. She was still in her party dress. I was still holding my purse. I'm sorry, she said, for everything I said about you. You were right. I was defending a monster. He's your brother. And you were going to be my sister-in-law. She wiped her eyes. I should have seen it. The signs were all there. We all should have, I said. But we see what we want to see. No, she shook her head. You saw the truth. You were willing to look at it. The rest of us were too comfortable in our denial. What are you going to do now? I asked. I don't know. She stared at the police station. My whole life I've defined myself by this family, by what we represented. Now I don't know who I am without it. Maybe that's a good thing, I said. Maybe you get to find out who you really are. She looked at me. Will you help me? Through all of this? I thought about it. About everything she'd said to me over the years. The casual cruelty, the judgment, the way she'd made me feel less than. But I also thought about how she'd stood up at that table, how she'd questioned her parents, how she was standing here now, willing to face the truth. Yeah, I said. I'll help you. We drove back to my apartment in silence. She helped me carry in the few things I'd left at Donovan's place. Clothes mostly, some books, a coffee maker he'd bought me for my birthday that I suddenly didn't want anymore. Do you want to stay here tonight? I asked. I don't think you should be alone. She nodded, gratefully. I made up the couch for her, gave her one of my oversized t-shirts to sleep in. We sat together in the dim light of my living room, both of us too wired to sleep. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. How did you know? About Felicity? I didn't at first. I just noticed small things. The way he'd angle his phone away from me. How he'd started going to the gym at odd hours. The cologne he started wearing that I'd never bought him. So you went looking. I hired a private investigator, I admitted, 2 months ago. I felt crazy doing it. Like I was paranoid and jealous. But my gut kept telling me something was wrong. Your gut was right. It usually is. I pulled my knees up to my chest. The investigator found Felicity in a week. Found Holly and Brianna too. Gave me everything I needed to know that I was marrying someone I didn't really know at all. Why didn't you leave right away? Because I wanted to understand why. Why he did it. Why he kept doing it. Why I wasn't enough. And, did you figure it out? Yeah, she looked at me. It was never about you. It was always about him. About some broken part of him that no amount of love or loyalty could fix. We sat in silence for a while. Then Victoria spoke again. Felicity wasn't the first person to contact you, was she? No. Holly reached out to me about 6 months ago. But she wouldn't give me details. Just said Donovan had hurt her and I should be careful. But you stayed. I thought maybe she was just bitter. An ex who couldn't let go. I didn't realize she was trying to warn me. And Brianna never contacted me. The investigator found her through old social media posts. She moved to another state after Donovan. Changed her number. Wanted nothing to do with him or anyone associated with him. Smart woman, Victoria said. Yeah, I wish I'd been that smart. You were smart enough when it mattered. She looked at me seriously. You could have just left. Taken the high road. Instead, you made sure he faced consequences. That takes guts. Or stupidity. No, she shook her head. It takes courage. Real courage. The kind our family doesn't have. The next morning, my phone started ringing before sunrise. My mother, my best friend, my coworkers. News traveled fast in our small city. Is it true? My mother asked when I finally answered. Did you really call the police on Donovan at your own engagement party? It wasn't my engagement party anymore, I said. I'd already called off the wedding. But the police? She sounded horrified. Couldn't you have handled it privately? He stole money from dying children, Mom. That's not a private family matter. That's a crime. But now everyone will know. Everyone will talk. Good. Let them talk. Maybe if more people spoke up about things like this, fewer people would get away with it. She was quiet for a moment. I just worry about you. About how this will affect your reputation. My reputation? I laughed. Mom, I just found out my fiancé was cheating on me with multiple women and stealing from sick kids. My reputation is the least of my concerns. After I hung up with her, I texted my boss. Need a few days off. Family emergency. She responded immediately. Take all the time you need. I saw the news. I'm so sorry. The news. Right. I turned on the TV and there it was. Local man arrested for embezzlement at charity event. They hadn't released Donovan's name yet, but they had mine. The woman who reported him. My phone rang again. A number I didn't recognize. Is this the woman engaged to Donovan? A voice asked when I answered. Who is this? My name is Patricia. I'm one of the mothers whose daughter was helped by the charity. Before it shut down, my stomach dropped. I'm so sorry. I had no idea what he was doing until... Please don't apologize. She cut me off. I called to thank you. Thank me? My daughter needed a heart surgery. $180,000. The charity was going to cover it. Then suddenly they shut down. No explanation. No help. We almost lost everything. I felt tears building. I'm so sorry. We had to take out loans we'll never be able to pay back. Borrow from family, set up fundraisers. It nearly destroyed us. But we got her the surgery. She's okay now. And when I saw the news this morning, when I realized why the charity shut down, I knew I needed to call you. I don't understand. You got justice for us. For all of us. You didn't have to. You could have just walked away. But you didn't. And now, maybe that money can be recovered. Maybe the charity can start again. Maybe other families won't have to go through what we did. I was crying now. Openly. Thank you, Patricia said. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being brave enough to do the right thing. After I hung up, Victoria came out of the bathroom. She'd showered. Was wearing her dress from last night. I need to go home, she said. Face my parents. Figure out what happens next. Do you want me to come with you? She smiled sadly. No, this is something I need to do alone. After she left, I sat on my couch and cried. Not for Donovan, not for the relationship, but for all those families, all those kids who'd suffered because one man decided his wants mattered more than their needs. My phone rang again. Felicity. I saw the news, she said when I answered. Are you okay? I don't know. I think so. Are you? I'm relieved, she admitted. I've been carrying this secret for months, terrified he'd come after me if I said anything. Now it's out there. Now people know. Thank you, I said, for reaching out to me, for trusting me with the truth. No, thank you for believing me, for doing something about it. We talked for an hour. She told me more about her relationship with Donovan, how he'd love-bombed her at first, made her feel special, then slowly started isolating her, making her feel like she was crazy for questioning him. It's textbook manipulation, she said. I just couldn't see it while I was in it. I know the feeling. When she got pregnant, he'd been cold, clinical, told her it wasn't a good time, that they'd have kids later. But she knew there wouldn't be a later. She knew he'd never leave me, never commit to her. She was just the escape, the distraction. When she threatened to tell me about the baby, he'd gotten scary. Not physically violent, but his words were weapons. He told her he'd ruin her life, destroy her reputation, make sure no one believed her. So I went through with the abortion, she said. Not because I wanted to, but because I was terrified of what he'd do if I didn't. My heart broke for her, for all of us women who'd been hurt by this man who everyone thought was so successful, so charming, so perfect. The media coverage intensified over the next few days. Reporters camped outside my apartment, called my work, tried to friend me on social media. I gave one statement through a lawyer, then refused all further interviews. The statement was simple. I reported a crime when I became aware of it. I encourage anyone with information about the embezzlement to contact the authorities. My thoughts are with the families affected by this theft. Short, professional, to the point. But the media wanted drama. They wanted me to trash Donovan, call him names, cry on camera. I refused to give them that satisfaction. Instead, I focused on what mattered, helping the investigation, providing evidence, making sure the case against him was airtight. The prosecutor assigned to the case was a woman named Ramona. She was in her 50s, sharp as a knife, and took no nonsense from anyone. You did good, she told me during our first meeting. A lot of people would have looked the other way, protected themselves. You chose justice instead. I just did what anyone should do. She laughed. If everyone did what they should do, I'd be out of a job. She walked me through what would happen next. The investigation, the charges, the likely trial unless Donovan took a plea deal. Will you need me to testify? I asked. Probably. Can you handle that? I thought about those families, those kids. Yeah, I can handle it. Good, because his lawyers are going to come after you. They'll try to make this about the relationship, about jealousy, about a woman scorned. You need to be prepared for that. Let them try, I said. I have evidence. Bank statements. Text messages. Voice recordings. They can spin whatever narrative they want. The facts speak for themselves. She smiled. I like you. Most victims crumble under that kind of pressure. You've got steel in you. I didn't feel like steel. I felt exhausted, angry, heartbroken, but I was determined to see this through. 2 weeks after the arrest, Donovan's lawyer reached out. He wanted to meet, discuss a possible settlement. Settlement? I said to my own lawyer. For what? I'm not suing him. He wants you to recant your statement, she explained. Say you were mistaken about what you saw. In exchange, he'll pay you $100,000 and sign a non-disclosure agreement. I laughed. Are you kidding me? He thinks I'll take money to lie? Apparently. She looked at me seriously. For the record, I advise you not to. But legally, I have to present all offers. Tell him he can take his $100,000 and use it to pay back the charity. Every cent of it. She grinned. I'll word it more professionally, but I'll get the point across. The offer increased to $250,000 a week later, then $500,000. Each time, I refused. This isn't about money, I told Victoria when she called to check in. This is about doing what's right. I know, she said. But $500,000 is a lot of money. No one would blame you for taking it. I would blame me, and so would those families who are still struggling because of what your brother did. She was quiet. Then, you're a better person than I am. No, I'm just someone who knows what it's like to struggle. My family never had money. I worked my way through community college, took on debt for dental hygiene school. I know what it means when every dollar counts. Those families needed that money for life-saving treatments. I can't put a price on that. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks after the arrest. I sat in the courtroom and watched Donovan walk in wearing an expensive suit. His hair was perfectly styled. He looked calm, confident, like he thought he'd walk out of there a free man. The prosecutor presented the evidence methodically. Bank statements showing the transfers, internal documents from the nonprofit showing discrepancies, testimony from the charity's board about how the missing money had forced them to shut down. Donovan's lawyer tried to argue that it was a misunderstanding, that Donovan had been authorized to move money between accounts, that the charity's bookkeeping was sloppy. But the evidence was overwhelming. The judge ordered him held on $500,000 bail pending trial. As they led him out of the courtroom, he looked directly at me, not with anger, not with hatred, with betrayal, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I stared back, didn't look away, didn't apologize with my eyes. He'd made his choices. Now he had to live with them. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I kept my head down, said nothing. My lawyer had advised me to let the evidence speak for itself, but one reporter got in my face, shoved a microphone at me. How does it feel to destroy the man you loved? I stopped, looked directly at the camera. I didn't destroy him, I said. He destroyed himself. I just refused to help him cover it up. That clip went viral. Within hours, it was everywhere. Social media, news websites, morning talk shows. Some people called me a hero. Others called me vindictive. A bitter ex who couldn't handle being cheated on. I ignored both. Turned off notifications, stopped reading comments, focused on getting through each day. My mom called again. This time her tone was different. I saw your interview, she said. The one outside the courthouse. I didn't give an interview. That was one sentence to a reporter. Still, she paused. I'm proud of you. For standing up. For not letting him intimidate you. Thanks, Mom. I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier. I was worried about the wrong things. About appearances and what people would think. But you were worried about the right things. About justice and doing what's right. Better late than never, I said. She laughed. That's what your grandmother used to say. We talked for another hour. The longest conversation we'd had in years. She told me about her own experiences with men who'd lied to her, used her, made her feel small. I wish I'd had your courage when I was your age, she said. Maybe things would have been different. It's not too late, I told her. It's never too late to stand up for yourself. After we hung up, I felt lighter, like something had shifted. Not just with her, but with me. I was done apologizing for taking up space, done making myself smaller to make others comfortable. The trial was set for 4 months later. In the meantime, the investigation expanded. Turns out Donovan hadn't just embezzled from the charity. He'd been skimming money from his father's company too. Small amounts over several years. Enough that it hadn't been immediately noticed, but it added up to over $150,000. His father was devastated. Not just by the theft, but by the betrayal. He'd given Donovan a job when no one else would hire him after the nonprofit shut down, had trusted him with company finances, and Donovan had stolen from him too. Victoria told me her parents were getting divorced. The stress of the investigation, the shame, the realization that they'd been enabling Donovan's behavior for years. It had broken something between them that couldn't be fixed. Mom blames Dad for not being stricter with him, Victoria said. Dad blames Mom for coddling him. They're both right. They both failed him, and now they're paying the price. What about you? I asked. How are you holding up? I'm in therapy, she admitted, twice a week, trying to unpack how I became someone who defended a thief, who attacked you instead of questioning my brother. You were raised to protect the family image above all else. That's not your fault. It is my fault. I'm an adult. I made choices. Bad ones. And now I have to live with the fact that I was part of the problem. The fact that you recognize that means you're already changing, I said. I hope so, she sighed. I don't want to be that person anymore. The one who values appearances over integrity. Who attacks people for not being rich enough or ambitious enough. I want to be better. Then be better. It sounds so simple when you say it. It is simple. It's just not easy. The trial finally started in November. The courtroom was packed every day. Reporters, curious onlookers, family members of the affected families. Donovan's family sat on one side. The charity's supporters sat on the other. I sat with the prosecutor, watching, waiting for my turn to testify. Donovan's defense team was good. Expensive. They argued that he'd had authorization to move funds, that the charity's board had been negligent in their oversight, that Donovan was a scapegoat for systemic failures. But Ramona, the prosecutor, was better. She systematically dismantled every argument, showed how Donovan had created fake invoices, forged signatures, deleted emails that would have exposed him. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand with my head held high. Donovan's lawyer tried to rattle me, asked about our relationship, about the affairs, about whether I was testifying out of revenge. I'm testifying because I was presented with evidence of a crime and reported it to the authorities, I said calmly. My personal feelings about the defendant are irrelevant to the fact that he stole $340,000 from sick children. The lawyer tried a different angle. Isn't it true that you hired a private investigator to spy on my client? I hired an investigator to determine if my fiancé was being faithful. In the course of that investigation, evidence of financial crimes was uncovered. Evidence you immediately used to humiliate him at a family gathering? I reported a crime. If the defendant felt humiliated, perhaps he should have considered that before committing the crime. The lawyer tried to trip me up for another hour, but I didn't waver. Didn't get emotional. Just stuck to the facts. When I stepped down, Ramona gave me a small nod. You did great, she said later. You held your ground. Felicity testified the next day. She was nervous, kept fidgeting with her hands, but she told the truth about the affair, the pregnancy, the abortion, the threats Donovan had made when she wanted to tell people about the embezzlement. His lawyer tried to paint her as a gold digger, a woman trying to extort money from a wealthy family. But Felicity held firm. I didn't want his money, she said. I wanted him to do the right thing, to pay back what he stole. When he refused, when he threatened me, I knew I had to speak up. The turning point came when Ramona called one of the mothers to the stand, the woman whose daughter had needed heart surgery, who'd almost lost everything trying to save her child. She testified about the phone call from the charity, how they'd promised to cover the surgery, how her family had made plans based on that promise. Then how the charity had shut down with no explanation, no warning, just gone. We didn't know what to do, she said through tears. My daughter needed that surgery within 3 months or she'd die. We had no money, no options. We thought we'd have to choose which of our kids got to eat so we could save enough for the surgery. What did you do? Ramona asked gently. We sold our house, moved in with my parents, took out loans against everything we owned. My husband worked 3 jobs, I worked 2. We ran fundraisers, begged on social media. Somehow, miraculously, we got the money, but we lost everything else. Our home, our savings, our retirement, our credit. And your daughter? She's alive, healthy. But we're still $90,000 in debt. We'll be paying it off for the rest of our lives. If the charity hadn't shut down, would you have needed to do any of that? No. The woman looked directly at Donovan. My daughter would have gotten her surgery. We'd still have our home, our future. Instead, one man's greed destroyed our entire life. The courtroom was silent. Even Donovan's lawyer looked uncomfortable. 4 more families testified, each with similar stories, each describing how the charity's sudden closure had devastated them, how they'd scrambled to save their children, how they'd sacrificed everything. By the time the prosecution rested, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Donovan's team tried to mount a defense, called character witnesses, people who testified about his good work in the community, his volunteer efforts, his reputation, but it rang hollow against the testimony of the families he'd hurt. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous on all 15 counts. Guilty. Donovan's mother sobbed. His father sat stone-faced. Victoria, who'd been sitting in the back, got up and left before sentencing. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison, plus restitution to the charity and the families, plus a $50,000 fine. It's never enough, the judge said. No sentence can undo the harm you've caused, but perhaps it will send a message that stealing from the vulnerable will not be tolerated in my courtroom. As they led Donovan away, he looked back one more time. This time, his expression wasn't betrayal. It was acceptance. Like he'd finally realized what he'd done, what he'd destroyed. I felt nothing watching him go. No satisfaction, no vindication, just exhaustion. Outside the courthouse, Patricia, the mother who'd testified, found me. Thank you, she said again, for everything. I hugged her. Thank your daughter for me, for being strong, for surviving. She smiled through tears. I will. The media coverage after the verdict was intense, but it was different now. Instead of focusing on the drama of the engagement party, reporters were focusing on the families, on the impact of white-collar crime, on how one person's greed rippled out to destroy so many lives. I gave one interview to a local reporter who'd been covering the trial fairly. What made you come forward? She asked. You could have just left, started over. No one would have known. Those families would have known, I said. They would have continued suffering while the person responsible walked free. I couldn't live with that. Do you regret calling off the wedding? Not for a second. I regret not seeing who he really was sooner. But I don't regret leaving. What's next for you? I'm going back to work, back to my normal life. I just want to move on. But moving on wasn't that simple. The media attention continued for weeks. Strangers recognized me in public. Some thanked me. Others glared. One woman called me a homewrecker in the grocery store. I started seeing a therapist. Not because I regretted what I'd done, but because carrying all of this was heavy. The weight of knowing, of choosing to act, of standing up in front of the world and saying this is wrong. My therapist helped me process it all. The betrayal, the public scrutiny, the unexpected consequences of doing the right thing. You saved lives, she reminded me. Maybe not directly, But by forcing the return of that money, by helping the charity reform, you gave families hope. That matters. It did matter. And slowly I started to believe it. Victoria and I stayed in touch. She moved to a different city, started a new job, cut ties with most of the family. I'm rebuilding myself, she told me 6 months after the trial, figuring out who I am when I'm not just Donovan's sister or my father's daughter. That's brave, I said. I learned from the best. She paused. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. How strong you are. How brave. You're seeing it now. That's what matters. A year after Donovan's sentencing, the charity held a gala to celebrate their reopening. To thank their supporters, they invited me as the guest of honor. I almost didn't go. Didn't want the attention. Didn't want to be paraded around as some kind of hero. But the director called me personally. Please come, she said. The families want to meet you. Want to thank you. You gave them their lives back. So I went. Wore a simple dress. Kept my makeup minimal. Tried to blend in. But they wouldn't let me. The families surrounded me. Introduced me to their children. Showed me photos of surgeries and treatments and recovery. This is my daughter, Patricia said, introducing me to a beautiful teenager. She's 16 now. Healthy. Thriving. Because of you. Not because of me, I said. Because of the doctors. The treatments. Your family's strength. But Patricia shook her head. Without you, we wouldn't have had access to any of that. You gave us a chance. That's everything. I met 11 children that night. 11 kids who were alive and healthy because someone had funded their treatments. Because the charity had been able to reform. Because the stolen money had been recovered. 11 lives that could have been lost. That night, lying in bed, I finally felt it. Peace. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just peace with my choices. I'd done the right thing. Even when it was hard. Even when it cost me. Even when the whole world was watching. And I'd do it again. 2 years after the trial, I met Nathan. He was nothing like Donovan. He taught 5th grade at an inner-city school, drove a beat-up Toyota, lived in a small apartment filled with books and plants. On our first date, he asked what I did for work. When I told him I was a dental hygienist, he didn't flinch, didn't ask about my ambitions or my plans to do more. That's important work, he said. You help people. That matters. I almost cried right there in the restaurant. He didn't know about Donovan, hadn't followed the trial. When I finally told him, 3 months into our relationship, he listened without judgment. You did what you had to do, he said simply. That took guts. It took me a long time to feel that way about it. But you feel that way now? I nodded. Yeah, I do. Good. He kissed my forehead. Because you should be proud. What you did was brave and right. We got married a year later. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Victoria was my maid of honor. Patricia and her daughter came. So did Felicity, who'd become a good friend. It was perfect. Not fancy, not expensive, just real and honest and full of love. Nathan's vows made me cry. He promised to always be honest, to never make me doubt, to build a life based on trust and respect. I promised the same. We bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood, adopted 2 rescue dogs, built a life that was simple and honest and ours. Sometimes I thought about Donovan, about where he was, what he was doing, if he'd learned anything. But mostly, I didn't. He was a chapter in my past, a lesson learned, a reminder of what happens when you choose appearance over integrity. 5 years after the trial, I got a letter. From Donovan. It was short, direct. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, about who I was. You were right to turn me in. Those families deserve justice. I'm sorry for everything I put you through, for the lies, the betrayal, the way I tried to manipulate you into staying silent. You deserved better. Those families deserved better. I hope you found happiness. I hope you've moved on. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand now why you did what you did, and I'm grateful you had the courage I lacked. I read it once, then filed it away. Not thrown out, not treasured, just acknowledged and moved past. Nathan asked if I was okay. Yeah, I said. I am, and I was. More than okay. I was happy, genuinely, deeply happy. I'd built a life I was proud of, with a partner who respected me, doing work that mattered, surrounded by people who valued honesty over appearance. It wasn't perfect. We had bills to pay and arguments to resolve and bad days like everyone else. But it was real, and that made all the difference. 10 years after that engagement party, I ran into Donovan's mother at a coffee shop. She looked older, tired, but not unkind. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then she approached. May I sit? She asked. I nodded. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around her coffee cup. I owe you an apology, she said, for that night, for how we treated you, for protecting Donovan instead of doing what was right. Thank you, I said. I've spent the last decade thinking about that night, about the choices I made, the things I prioritized. She looked down. I failed those families. I failed you. I failed my son by not teaching him accountability. You're not responsible for his choices, but I am responsible for mine, for knowing what he'd done and choosing to hide it, for valuing our reputation over justice. She met my eyes. You were braver than all of us combined. I appreciate you saying that. How are you? She asked. Are you happy? I am. Very happy. Good. She stood up. That's all I wanted to know. That you'd found happiness after everything my family put you through. She left before I could respond. I watched her go. Felt something like closure settle over me. Later that night, Nathan asked what I was thinking about. Just how far I've come, I said. How different my life is now. Better? So much better. He pulled me close. I'm glad. You deserve all the happiness in the world. So do you. Then we're lucky, he said, because we found it together. That night, I thought about that engagement party one more time, about how my life had split into before and after, how one moment of courage had changed everything. Would I do it again? Knowing all the pain and publicity and judgment that would come? Yes, without hesitation, because some things are worth fighting for. Justice, integrity, truth, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to be silent when silence would be easier. I'd chosen the harder path, and it had led me here, to this life, this love, this peace. That was worth everything.